For ABC 10 News at 5 starts right now.
Controversy over vaccine mandates, why hundreds of San Diego police officers say they may walk off the job.
Plus, we're closing in on the recall election. We're taking a closer look at the candidates as several make their way to San Diego today.
And tomorrow marks 20 years since the 9/11 terror attacks. We're going to preview ceremonies taking place nationwide.
ABC 10 News at 5 starts now.
Hundreds of San Diego police officers say they'd rather quit their jobs than go through a vaccine mandate. That's according to a survey given to members of San Diego Police Officers Association recently. Thank you for joining us. I'm Lindsay Pena.
And I'm Steve Atkinson. Our ABC 10 News reporter Mimi Alcala spoke with the union president who says the biggest concern right now is losing officers if the city doesn't provide options for those officers. Mimi.
Yeah, and he says after years of working on recruitment and retention at the police department, this vaccine mandate could cause a major setback.
It's concerning for sure.
The city of San Diego recently notified employees that they must get a COVID-19 vaccine by November 2nd with some religious and medical exemptions. Jack Schaefer is the president of the San Diego Police Officers Association. He says a new survey highlights the potential issues with staffing the police department if the city sticks with that mandate. He says about 733 union members responded to the survey,
which is roughly 38% of our whole force. It just seems like there should be something other than either have your vaccination or go get another job.
In a copy of the results shared with ABC 10 News, about 91% of the respondents believe that vaccines should be an individual choice. Schaefer says when asked if an officer would rather be fired than obey a city or department mandate, hundreds said yes.
I believe it was somewhere in the 330 range that said that they'd rather be fired than be mandated.
And he says when officers were asked if they'd consider leaving the department if vaccines were mandated by the city, about 479 said yes.
I was asked recently if, those numbers might be a little skewed. Obviously, any survey can be, but even if it's a quarter of that number, you're talking 75 or 80 officers. That's a lot. And they could very easily go to other places.
Schaefer tells me the union has been negotiating with the city and shared those survey results. He worries after years of working on recruitment and retention and finally getting to a good place, this mandate could reverse those efforts. He hopes a testing option will be given to those who don't want the vaccine. In a statement to ABC 10 News, Mayor Todd Gloria's press secretary said, "Polls don't dictate our policies. We want to protect our public safety officers and the public."
And again, Schaefer says the goal here is to come to some type of an agreement so people can still get tested if they do not want to get the vaccine. He says that'll be key to keeping as much officers on the force as possible. Reporting live in Rancho Penasquitos, Mimi Alcala, ABC 10 News.
Thank you, Mimi. Local experts are weighing in on President Biden's COVID vaccine mandate for certain businesses. This comes just a day after he announced his 6-pillar plan aimed at beating the pandemic. That mandate requires workers at businesses with 100 or more employees to get vaccinated, or they have to get tested weekly for COVID. Jerry Sanders, CEO and president of the San Diego Regional Chamber of Commerce, is supportive of the plan.
Our businesses want to stay open. We don't want to see them close again, so I think that businesses will make those decisions, and I hope that people respect the decisions they make.
But not everyone is. San Diego County Supervisor Jim Desmond sent ABC 10 News a statement saying he's against workplace vaccine mandates.
Children as young as 5 years old may soon get the COVID-19 vaccine as well. This after Pfizer announced that it will submit its clinical trials to the FDA here in the coming weeks. Our ABC 10 News reporter Rena Nakano explains the vaccine trial and the new FDA regulations manufacturers must follow to get authorized.
This March, Pfizer began testing 4,500 children in a 3-age group trial for their COVID-19 vaccine, ages 5 to 11, 2 to 5, and 6 months to 2 years. Pfizer says the vaccine for school-age kids is the same formula as the one approved for adults, but with a smaller dose. The company says it plans to submit their trials for emergency use authorization to the FDA for the 5 to 11-year-old age group first in the coming weeks.
The FDA wants to see data on the safety and side effects and immunogenicity. How strong is the vaccine? In the older age group generally first before they'll take it down.
Friday, the FDA also announced a new standard for pediatric COVID-19 vaccine trials. Clinical trials must include a 2-month follow-up period after giving the final dose, where manufacturers monitor the effects of the vaccine. Dr. John Bradley with Rady Children's Hospital says that's the time frame for side effects to show up.
If there's fevers, if there's arthritis, if there's myocarditis, any of those, generally within the first 2 months.
Some parents question if vaccines are even necessary for children if the COVID death rate for kids is less than 0.1%. But Bradley says infected children can still spread the virus to higher risk people like grandparents. He believes vaccinating the youth will get the community back to normalcy.
I want kids to get back to just being kids and playing with each other. And I think the key to that is immunization of all children.
Rena Nakano, ABC 10 News.
And Bradley does believe by next month the FDA will grant Pfizer the EUA for 5 to 11-year-olds. And within a few years, he believes the COVID-19 vaccine will become a required shot for all children, such as the hepatitis or tetanus. And we just got the latest COVID numbers into our newsroom. More than 1,000 new cases for the first time in almost a week. That's out of more than 26,000 tests. And sadly, 12 more San Diegans lost their lives to the virus.
There was a flash flood warning in parts of the county earlier today. ABC 10 News meteorologist Angelica Campos is joining us with the latest conditions. Hi, Angelica.
Hi, Lindsay. At one point, Borrego Springs went from 101 degrees to 74 because of a thunderstorm moving through. And you can see most everything is far east. It's now moving quickly out of the county, but there's still moisture in place. Monsoonal activity should start to die down after tonight. As we zoom out and put this in motion, you can see how just a few leftover showers are still tracking across the eastern part of the county, but otherwise looking much better. I'll show you how much longer the heat is going to last because it's going to be here this weekend.
All right, warming up. Angelica, thank you. Today, Governor Gavin Newsom cast his vote in the recall election, and with just the election just now 4 days away, the top Republican candidates, they are making their final cases on issues including homelessness, housing, and the pandemic. Today, Republican frontrunner Larry Elder and local businessman John Cox, they campaigned right here in San Diego, attempting to give one last boost to their chances of unseating the governor. Our ABC 10 News anchor Derek Stahl is going in depth to explain how those challengers are taking different positions from the governor and each other.
On COVID restrictions and vaccine mandates, there are clear battle lines between Governor Gavin Newsom and the leading Republicans hoping to unseat him. The latest ABC 10 News scientific poll shows the top Republicans are Larry Elder, John Cox, and Kevin Faulconer, and they've all vowed to repeal Newsom's vaccine requirements for state workers and teachers.
I'm not at all against vaccines, and I think people in high-risk categories, people who are older, ought to be vaccinated. But I certainly don't believe that the government should mandate that people be vaccinated. We still have freedom in this country.
When it comes to mask requirements at schools, conservative talk show host Larry Elder is the most opposed, saying masking kids is against science. Rancho Santa Fe businessman John Cox says he considers school mask mandates a last resort and prefers parent choice. Former San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer says he's open to mask rules at schools if it helps preserve in-person learning. And then there's the question of housing affordability.
California's too expensive. I'm going to reduce that. I understand how important it is because right now people are voting with their feet. They're leaving California because they can't afford to raise a family or they can't afford to retire here.
Faulconer, Cox, and Elder have all taken aim at the California Environmental Quality Act. They say the regulations should be amended or suspended to make the construction of new homes easier and cheaper. For his part, Governor Newsom has promised to help build 3.5 million new housing units by 2025. But construction has been below that pace during his first 2 years in office, with the pandemic playing a role. Building more housing is also part of each candidate's approach on homelessness, but there are some important strategic differences. Faulconer wants to increase enforcement of no camping laws in public spaces and open more shelters. Cox takes issue with that.
We've got to do the compassionate thing and we've got to get them treatment. Instead, you get people like Gavin Newsom and Kevin Faulconer who just buy hotel rooms, put them in a hotel room and think that they solved the problem. Well, I got news for you. That doesn't solve the problem. That just moves it off the street.
Cox argues there's not a lack of beds, there's a lack of effort to get people treatment for mental illness or substance abuse. He supports conservatorships to force more people on the streets into treatment programs. Larry Elder says he wants to address homelessness by empowering religious institutions and nonprofits, not the government, to help people become self-sufficient. In July, Newsom signed the state's largest bill in history to address homelessness, $12 billion over 2 years. It includes $5.8 billion to create more than 42,000 new homeless housing units. There's also more than $1 billion to pick up trash, clean streets and freeways, and address homeless camps. Derek Stahl, ABC 10 News.
All right, 4 days away, and ABC 10 News is your source for the special election. We will have live coverage of the recall vote on air online Tuesday night as well. To stay up to date, you can find ABC 10 News on Roku, Fire TV, and Apple TV. You can also watch on your computer or your phone just by downloading the 10 News app or go to 10news.com.
Across San Diego, people are preparing for tomorrow's 20th anniversary of 9/11. This is video of a memorial you may not know about outside a fire station in Pacific Beach. The memorial includes a steel beam recovered from the World Trade Center. Names are also inscribed of first responders who lost their lives that day. And people are also gathering at Ground Zero in New York to commemorate the 9/11 anniversary. ABC's Rena Roy shows how people were changed by their horrible ordeal.
From Joint Base Andrews in Maryland to the so-called survivor tree at the Department of Justice.
Nothing we can do or say can replace the loss so many endured on that day.
And in New York City at the World Trade Center, America pausing to reflect on the day that's haunted our country for 20 years now.
This is at the World Trade Center, and there has been some sort of explosion.
John Feel was helping out at Ground Zero in the aftermath when a steel beam crushed him. He survived and has now dedicated his life to helping other first responders.
It's the longest day in the history of days that hasn't ended for so many people who have not had closure.
Also reflecting 2 decades later, former White House Chief of Staff Andy Card. He was the one who broke the news to President Bush as he was reading to elementary school students.
I leaned down and I whispered into his right ear, "A second plane hit the second tower. America is under attack." And then when he stepped into that holding room, the first thing he said was, "Get the FBI director on the phone."
From there, America would never be the same. 2,977 lives lost, including Florence Jones's co-workers. She worked in the South Tower. The plane hit just 1 floor above.
I realized if I had stayed up there, I would have been dead. People that I knew were 100 plus stories up were hanging outside of the window, and I watched them. They were making a sign of the cross, holding hands, and jumping. To me, those people were heroes.
Saturday, their names will be read aloud by family members. President Biden will also be there to pay his respects.
Security has been stepped up across the city for the anniversary, but officials say there is no credible threat. Rena Roy, ABC News, Lower Manhattan.